a team of developers in South Africa, and they started the Ubuntu distribution. And I know from personal stories, because I advocate Linux quite a lot. People will come and say, oh, it's very complex, very difficult. When I didn't figure out how to install it, I had problems with the drivers, the screen didn't work. So many people actually switched into Linux because of Ubuntu. Because they say, oh, that's so easy, or that's great. I can use it out of the box. Well, I bought a netbook, and it has Ubuntu pre-installed. And it's very similar to the other operating systems. It's easy, it's fun. And that's a massive shift, of adoption of the Linux operating system, a free and open source operating system, between the server, the geeks, to the masses, to the mass market. All of that happened only because Mark thought that this can be done, this can be helped. And by the way, he benefited in the end from the fact that Ubuntu became very popular in the marketplace, because he created a company called Canonical that provides support packages and consulting services to Ubuntu, both on the desktop and the server sides. So in my view, it's basically the idea of converting challenges into opportunities, looking at the full half of the story, and thinking of how we can convert these challenges into opportunities, particularly in our region. And in a few minutes, I'll be talking about the challenges that we have right now and how we can really think of these as opportunities to build communities, to strengthen our local capacities in free and open source software. And that's, in the end, hopefully will give us more control over how we build software, use software, and benefit from software according to our own needs. So this year, analysts predict that $641 million US will be spent on software in Saudi Arabia alone. I'm so sorry because I couldn't find statistics for the whole Arab region, but I think that's indicative of the amount of money that will be spent on software application in the region. I was present, I was lucky enough to be present in a debate in Europe about software and technology industries in Europe. And they were faced with this question: why is it that almost all the successful software companies, are based in the United States? Why don't we see so many Italian, French, British software companies that dominate everywhere? And they came up with this conclusion that the United States actually enjoys a huge market that's very homogeneous. They speak one language, they share very common values, same culture, for 307 million people, more or less. So for any company, any software company that creates software, and remember that software doesn't suffer from the restrictions of physical distribution. You can distribute software quite easily through the web. It's quite small. You can ship CDs or DVDs wherever you want. And that's actually the distinctive advantage for the United States in building knowledge-based industries, and particularly software and web industries. Because what happens is, you can start as a very small startup company in San Francisco, and from day one, you have this huge potential market. So you grow inside your own country, you make money, you attract venture capital money and funding, and because you have this massive market, you get money on the investments, and you keep growing. You go public, and all this typical story of the software company's life cycle. While in Europe, on the other hand, if an Italian company starts up, well, they are limited to the Italian market. They have their interfaces, the documentation, everything has to be written in Italian. If they want to take that application to France, they have to localize the interface, they have to change the documentation, they have to do all of that before they can even enter the market. And just repeat that for the other 14, probably not 15 countries of the European Union. Well, I argue that in the Arab world, in the Arab region, we have a massive market. And this market enjoys more or less the same language. So what we speak in Saudi Arabia, if we have a software application, can be very easily used in Libya or in Syria or in other parts of the Arab world. And we also enjoy very similar cultures, very similar values and ways of doing things. And actually, that was a very interesting initiative. Dr. Abdulrahman was here this morning. They thought of creating, because public administrations, governments, have very similar systems for hiring, for HR, for finance. So they were a few folks who thought that we can create a repository of applications, open source applications that can be used by governments with slight modifications in different parts of the Arab world, like in the Gulf countries, in North Africa, and things like that. So what is it then that is preventing us from crossing that chasm, from actually creating an environment that is conducive to free and open source software development, and not only in the sense of benefiting or using what's being built by developers and user communities all over the world, but by actually nurturing local talent and startups and entrepreneurs who would be coming up with ideas that can be either converted into public goods for everyone, or even companies that can make money and benefit and probably expand to the Arab world and to other areas of the world. So when I was thinking of the challenges that we face, the first one that came to my mind is the issue of communities. Free and open source software, as Professor Dirk and David told us this morning, depend very heavily on the availability of critical mass of user communities who are willing to use the software, report bugs, correct these bugs, suggest feature modifications, add new requirements, create modules for the application. In the region, we do have some communities, but the problem is that they are very disconnected from each other. They are firstly quite weak compared to major software and major user communities in the world. And secondly, they are disconnected. So it's not very unusual to be in a meeting like this, in a conference or workshop like this, and learn about something completely new, like the work of Arabizing Android, who was done by a gentleman in the kingdom in Saudi Arabia. We don't know. And that's a problem, especially that we use the same language. So basically, it's very easy for us to post an email or a question to a mailing list in Arabic and get any user or any developer from anywhere in the region to respond to us. So I think this is one of the major challenges that we should be looking at and trying to address to strengthen the communities and strengthen the linkages between these communities so that we can have the leverage of working together. And the second problem, and this is very technical to be honest, it's actually the internet came late to the region. And even though we had some massive growth, I think from the year 2000 to the year 2007, in this 7 years period, the average growth in internet users in the world was about 200%. In the Arab region, in the same period, the growth was 950%. So about 10 times. But then, So people are appreciating the importance of the web and the benefits and the values that they can